that we always go through. Here we go. I think you all can see Kyo, how to manage routines. Right on. Thanks, Sarah. All right. So this content was actually created probably 6 years ago now, when COVID kind of rocked our world and rocked the world of our learners and our families that we get to work with. But it really remains relevant because routines get broken and disrupted. And so we need to have a plan in place. So we wanted to have the opportunity to talk about managing expectations when routines are broken and really how to set the stage for consistency across daily routines. Um, so let's dive in. Briefly, for those of you that aren't familiar with Kyo, we are a clinician-founded organization. We're currently in, I think, 11 different states, and we are a team of BCBAs, mid-level staff, behavior therapists, and a bunch of wonderful admin. Kyo is an ABA organization. So this is going to be coming through the behavioral lens as we present this content. We provide in-home, school, and community-based care, parent coaching, as well as behavioral consultation. And kind of our three pillars of success are impact, integrated, and connected care. And everything we do is with a lens of creating great impact, integrating into our daily life and routines, which is very natural for this presentation, and staying connected through meaningful technology. So let's dive in here. We know that, and the research and data show us that children that acquire independent learning independent skills early in life have more potential to thrive in both domestic and vocational settings. That gains in these daily living skills predict decreases in parental stress, which that one resonates and is very true to me. And that our learners with disabilities will gain these skills over time, but it takes longer to get there, and we need to be more intentional with our teaching. So when things like COVID happened and the whole world was disrupted, being really mindful of having these systems in place is going to create opportunity for success when something unexpected occurs. Today, we're going to talk about creating and following new routines using schedules and checklists and self-monitoring systems. All right. So again, this was originally brought during the COVID world, but for kids, when a change happens, like the loss of school structure or routine, loss of time with friends and family members, there is an increase in stress. This is similar for parents and guardians. When our kids are out of school, holy moly, how do I manage my kids in these scenarios? What can I do with them to help them stay on some sort of schedule? There becomes a lot of blur in our work and our life boundaries when we're working from home. Some of us haven't really gotten back to the office yet. So how can we keep our kids engaged while we're still working? And then the stress of homeschooling combined with working from home. I think we all know that was a wild time when our kids were still out of school. Oops, here we go. Routines can help. They're going to help us when these changes or disruptions happen. So having them established is really going to create a culture in your system, in your home, or in your classroom to fall back on. Households that have structure and routines tend to have fewer challenges with transitions between activities, compliance, children being able to entertain themselves, cleanliness and tidiness, those sibling rivalries that pop up, any power struggles. Especially helpful for those transitions when there's non-preferred activities involved. And I'm using households vaguely here. This also stands for classrooms, community centers. So households can be used in a variety, use that term loosely, that routines are going to be helpful. Benefits of these routines. Predictability, regularity, security, responsibility, cooperation. Knowing what to expect and when to expect it helps kids feel safe. It makes their days easier and being able to move through their days more seamlessly. The comfort that comes from an established routine helps everyone. If I know my kid's going to follow this plan, I'm more at my baseline than if I'm not sure what's going to happen next. We also know that predictability creates a sense of calm, which reduces stress and anxiety, especially in those unfamiliar scenarios like that shelter in place that happened 6 years ago. Something else to keep in mind is building in these routines and the predictability of routines takes away that potential for some of our kids to feel uh they're being pushed or they're being bossed around or being told what to do. Because instead of mom telling you what to do or your teacher telling you what to do, it's what's on the schedule. That's just what's happening next. And there's likely a sense of control in that. There might even be a chance to for them to choose what comes next based on the routine that's been established. Lots of benefits to having these built in. So let's talk a little bit about using schedules and checklists and setting up those routines at home. It's important that we start with identifying what are we doing? What are the activities in place? Are there time blocks we need to be mindful of? Those time blocks need to work for both your child and you, or the teacher, whoever it is. It shouldn't just be some random time at 9 o'clock at night. There might need to be a written schedule or a visual schedule involved. And most importantly, and I think we forget this a lot of the time, is we need to teach the schedule. We want to get to the place where we can just hand a schedule over to a learner. But that takes a lot of learning and a lot of teaching, especially if it's a novel, actual written schedule. But we need to teach the steps and explain what to be expected. Identifying these activities. What's most important? What's most important to your child and your family or the classroom routine in the family? Is it the academic content? Is it self-help and chores, outdoor time, family, individual activities, preferred activities, and free time? I found in my own household, free time is when I use schedules a lot because I need my 2-year-old. It looks different than maybe a 15-year-old schedule to manage himself so I can get dinner done safely. So I need him in a different room than the kitchen, and he has a schedule that he's following. So, what is important in this moment for your family? When you think about routines, setting the table, packing a snack, brushing your teeth, bedtime routine, getting out of the house is a routine. Quite literally putting on sunscreen can be a routine. The list goes on when you really sit down and think about the component parts of any activity or group of activities. In thinking about those time blocks here, what's going to work for you? What's going to work for your child? How long can your kiddo attend to an activity without supervision? My 2-year-old, 5 minutes, maybe, if I'm lucky. He's not going to have as much time. A teenager, maybe it's an hour where they can sit or get through a couple of activities without needing you to do a lot of checking in with them. How long are these kiddos expected to remain on task? And what does on task mean? Um, it might look different at home than it does at school. And are these realistic for each activity? If it's a close-ended puzzle that's part of your schedule for independent play, and you have a learner who's pretty good at, or a child who's really good at puzzles, that time block, one, it shouldn't be time-based because it's a close-ended ending activity. So you shouldn't be having like 20 minutes of puzzles probably, but rather a variety of activities to be choosing from to engage with and end and change into. So what is realistic for that activity? Important part of these schedules is what's in it for the kid? What's in it for the learner? Does it need to be something tangible for completing every task or the overall task, such as access to a toy or preferred item? Could it be a preferred activity following a non-preferred activity that's built into the schedule? That's my favorite. We're going to do math, then we're going to do spelling, and then it's screen time. It's all part of the schedule, but that screen time is really anchoring getting through those less preferred activities. One important component of schedules to keep thinking about for your learners or your children is the, they need to already be able to comply with simple requests or parental requests. So if they're not yet following instructions or simple demands, they're not really ready for that full structured schedule yet. Let's get them going with some basic compliance-based responding to simple tasks and instructions, and then we can start building in those routines. Um, One other thing to consider is your expectation of the routine or the performance built in. So one thing that I think about with my family is for my bedtime routine for my toddler is every single night, jammies, brush teeth, 3 books, hugs in bed. Every night. That's our routine. Toothbrushing is very, very non-preferred for this little guy. And 2 minutes of toothbrushing is too long. And so our expectation in our family is all parts for 10 seconds, like, like the six different parts of your mouth for 10 seconds. That's our expectation across my husband, myself. So my toddler knows what to expect. I have to tell grandma that when she babysits so that she's not sitting there keeping this toothbrush in his mouth for 2 minutes because it's going to be torture. So what are the expectations? How can we keep consistency? Um, and what level of independence are we expecting? He's 2. He does not need to brush his teeth by himself. He's going to get help in this scenario, although we're mostly getting to the schedule otherwise independently. So, kind of thinking, what are your expectations that you can manage it so that your learner can be successful? Really fun, easy, important step is a great visual schedule, especially for newer routines or newer schedule activity lists. It can be written, pictures, objects. Um, you are likely going to be able to get to a place where you can fade out that visual schedule. Um, I shouldn't say likely. You may get to a place where you can fade that out because it is so routine. But what's great about visual schedule is that when there's a disruption to that routine, the favorite jammies are dirty, no problem. You can add some other options for choice built into that schedule. So having understanding of using these visuals or using your schedule really brings a lot of meaning and value um, when you're working through following a routine schedule. And keep them displayed in an area where it's accessible. Where can you grab them every day to re-access them? And then what we talked about a minute ago, it's so important to explain the schedule. Not always can we just hand it over to the kid and say, go do it. This is it. They might not be able to do it independently right away. So explain each step, teach them, spend some time on it. And this might take a few days, a few trials, and then prompt them through it. That's okay to get help the first few times. It's always okay. And then provide some reinforcement for completing it. High five, social praise, moving on to the next one, whatever that looks like for your child. We'll start to teach self-monitoring. So completing part of the task, checking it off, and moving on to the next without someone telling you to move on to the next step. And then we're going to reinforce following the whole routine or the whole schedule. That's going to really help us build that expectation over time. Then you give it a try. So let's build it out. Some of the examples here, we have the morning plan where they're going to really just check off or X off each spot. The visual schedule, these are all over my house. Line them up and then move it to a done or put it in a little bucket because it's done. I like visual schedules with younger learners or learners who maybe don't have the fine motor skills to cross off or aren't reading yet. One, because it's a picture, but two, I like to be able to physically move it or have them create it themselves. It's a way to have them build it in there and they can build the plan themselves or the order themselves. And then super easy, a lot of us are using this written schedule. We do that every single day. Alrighty, let's talk about some self-monitoring tools. You've taught the schedule, they know what to expect. Now let's increase some independence on completing these things to get through it. Benefits here. We know that self-monitoring builds independence and accountability for own behavior. It increases participation in designing own behavior management programs, and it promotes a generalization of skills. Components of a self-monitoring system are identifying the target behavior that we're monitoring. How often are we going to monitor this behavior? And we got to get some buy-in from the learner on how to implement it. So an example could be, let's say you have a teenager and they need to do 20 minutes at the computer of, I don't know, computer math. And they're going to check in every 5 and then 10 and then 15 minutes. So every 5 minutes, we're going to check in and are they still at the computer and are they following through with their math? Or whatever it be in that scenario. And then the total duration is 20 minutes. Those check-ins are going to happen, and that's going to be when the time-bound component of this self-monitoring system. Example here might be a self-monitoring checklist. Here are the skills, and this one's for a little younger learner. They're going to cut it out, glue it on, and put in order of did I do it, and then they'll get to check it off as they do it. Another form of self-monitoring is a behavior contract. This provides clearly defined rules and consequences for behavior. It increases accountability for engaging in the quote right behavior or the appropriate behavior, and it allows parents, teachers, and children to work together towards a mutual goal. I have a funny story about behavior contracts, which yes, we'll talk about here. Components of behavior contract has what are we working for? What's the goal here? What are we agreeing to do to get there? And agree is a really important part here. There has to be buy-in from both the learner and the caregiver or parent or teacher. What privileges are earned for doing it? And what are the consequences for not following the contract? And then we're signing it. I had a learner many years ago now. They were in high school, and for sake of the story, we're going to call them Josie. And Josie, extremely bright. I think at the time they were 15 years old or so, and really we had this beautiful behavior contract. I forget what the behavior we were targeting was, but we're going to do this thing, and then they're going to get this, and if you don't do it, this is the consequences. This is what's going to happen. We all signed it. Mom signed it. Dad signed it. Josie signed it. I signed it. Then we went through the routine, did the things, and Josie didn't complete their portion of that. So we sat down and we reviewed the contract and said, "Hey, look, this is what we had agreed to." And Josie sat back, put her arms back, and said, "Did you see what I wrote there?" And we said, "Yeah, your name." And they said, "No, I wrote John Hancock. You guys should read your contracts more accurately." And we were just perfect. So they didn't agree to it. John Hancock agreed to it. And so we laughed and it totally took the edge off and still followed through with their contract and got things under control. But make sure your learner or your child is signing it with their own name. But it is an extremely effective tool because that signature should make them feel like there's accountability. They are really formally agreeing to this. This works really well for some of these older learners. It really creates that buy-in. It's kind of an adult type tool. We're agreeing to this and we're signing that we're going to do these things. Here's an example of what a simple one looks like. It's really, really effective in classroom settings as well. And there we go. Those are some examples of managing routines and providing some schedules when things get disrupted. What I want to leave time for questions, comments, thoughts, or any of you have. I can stop and share.
This is Jill. I love your visuals. I love your picture components and the way you set it up so they can choose
Yes.
the pieces. We used we stuck ours up on the mirror for our son so he could remember to brush his teeth. I when my son would circle in the morning. He'd run circles every morning for at least 45 minutes to an hour. So I stuck his clothes in that circle,
Yes.
underwear, pants, shirt, so that he would run around and grab it and put them on because he was one of those. I love standing in front of the big 96-inch picture window naked
Yep.
um, most of the time. But that kind of helped him kind of put those routines in place. But it would have been nice to have the picture pieces so that he could choose the pieces at least to put down
Yeah.
there in that
And you get that
routine.
buy-in, right? They're
Yeah,
picking and
yeah,
choosing
yeah,
it.
yeah. No, that
We
would
did
have
the
been
same
nice.
thing with, well, similar when my new baby came, my 2-year-old, I wasn't like thrilled about it that there was something else in here and some other being in his space. And we'd mastered visual schedules pretty consistently, but we started having him pick for the baby. So the change in our routine and the disrupted to our life, his whole life has changed now because there's a new baby. So with our picture schedules that we'd already taught and how to use, we started saying like, help us with Louis. What does Louis need to do next? Where does Louis get his jammies on? You're doing yours. And so part of it is picking Louis's plan for him because Louis's too little. Louis can't do it by himself. He needs his brother. And that's been really helpful in maintaining some consistency in our family for this routine that got really disrupted. His life got disrupted. So that's something that we've kind of embedded. But it took teaching up front in preparation for having this plan. So not always do you get to the benefit of knowing that there's something's going to be changing, but if you teach it now, you want to go on a vacation, bring the schedules, and then you just manipulate the
Yeah.
way that they look.
Yeah, he's 33 now. So we were all just kind of finding our way in a
Oh my
lot of
God, you
these
were just doing
pieces.
it.
Yeah, yeah. But no, this is really cool.
I think something that so I am a very, very heavy routine autistic. I think something that a lot of people don't really think about is the idea that you talk about routine like a monolith, and it's not.
Okay.
Um, because there are routines that are soothing and routines that are functional.
Yes.
And I think if you are engaging on a functional routine mindset over a soothing routine, it can be it can make it work.
I was gonna say, is it gonna make it like
Where yeah, because
counterintuitive to what you're
well
needing
well
to get through that plan?
it's being autistic, there's the stuff that sucks and the stuff that brings you joy. And if you bring a this sucks mindset and a framework and way of thinking, like this is the same mentality of doing homework that I get for the things that bring me joy, that makes it work. And
Yeah.
the problem with so many autistics is we grow up in an era where our childhood is work and we don't have the experience of free form turning our autism into joy.
Oh, I
So
love this
I think you have to be
feedback.
really, really able to my sort of mindset around recreational routine is you back the hell off and you let the kid come up with the routine if they want to or not. Um,
Yeah.
because usually that routine will look very different and be very weird. My personal routine, like I'm in my 40s. I watch a Homer Simpson clip, the same Homer Simpson clip every day. I
Yeah.
look at the same radio tower every day on my jog. It is so weird and nonsensical and bizarre. And yet those are the things that bring me joy. And yet my do the chores every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. during my lunch hour, that's a work routine and that's a very different animal. Both provide a sense of, oh, thank God I'm doing my routine. This is keeping the world, a chaotic world in order. But when you are, because the goal is building agency, right? But at the same time, being a autistic adult, you're going to have stuff where someone else has agency over you. So, for example, me doing the chores is a case of my spouse has agency over me. Because if I don't do these chores, they're going to be upset with me,
Right.
which is fair. You know, that's something I agreed to, and it's part of keeping a happy marriage. But this is the work crap, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's a very different animal. My recreation stuff, no one else touches that,
I
and
love this feedback, Peter.
yeah,
Can I
well,
ask a question?
yeah,
So when I was doing the presentation, I was talking about like that free play time.
yes, no, I
That's
thought that
kind
was
of where
really
we're
good.
thinking like leave it. Like free play
Yes,
could just be listed and just leave it. Don't make
yeah.
the routine of the free play. And so
So,
tweaking like the support could still be that free play is built into the
mhm,
day, but
yeah.
that I don't get to dictate what free play looks like for this learner or this individual.
What I thought was really good that you highlighted was it's not a time thing, it's a completion thing.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting is it could be both.
Sure, I
You
agree.
know, for for example, play 30 minutes of Minecraft or play the single video game level that can take 20 minutes or it can take 40 minutes.
Mhm.
But if it's the kid that likes to play the same video game level over and over and over again, it might take 50 minutes and you need to be okay with that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think this is so valuable, and if you're open to it, I'd love to kind of pick your brain offline too on like how to tweak some of our conversations, my overt conversations with folks, because I want to make sure I build in that like what is the genuine function? As a behavior analyst, I think of function as four things. But as a
Yeah.
human being, what does the function mean for the learner and for the person? And you're saying like there's task function, like just get it done, but there's also joy and soothing function and making sure that things are kind of
Yeah,
that we're just being mindful. I don't know. Like
I am a humanist. I reject behaviorism completely. I think
that's
it
totally
is
valid.
turns people into animals and is not what I'm about. It is fundamentally, at the end of the day, how do you give agency and how do you cultivate joy?
I love.
And how do you allow them to figure out their joy? Because right now we are in an era where autism is pathologized and there is no joy to be had in a diagnosis. So you can only create joy when you have reclaimed your own language.
Yes.
You have
Well, it's not
created
my
your own
job to dictate
stories.
somebody else's joy and what equals
Yeah.
fun for them.
Yeah.
I fully hear you, and I actually have a I'm sure you've done reading on this, but and this is neither here nor there, but there's one of our biggest kind of founders in the world of behavior analysis has come out and said that like one of our jobs is to teach happy,
Mhm.
which is hard, but like it's but in me when you mean teach happy, it's like what is a like how do we know that someone is happy? And how do we start going away from expectations and like these things like routines, but like what are the behaviors that someone is exhibiting to show us that they're comfortable in what we're doing? Um, because some kids are going to get services in therapy. And
Yeah.
how can we know that it's not always me driven, but that what are the behavior, what is being exhibited to show that they're getting that joy and that they're feeling relaxed. And so this is neither here nor there, but I just want,
Yeah, no,
I
I
have,
already have an answer on
I've
how
got,
you do
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and it's very similar to the answer that I gave when I talking about the eighth dimension of compassion people. Autistic compassion looks different than neurotypical compassion. Autistic
yeah.
joy cannot be accessed by neurotypical people. You need a pure counseling model, and that's something that I've been
Love that.
advocating within, the ABA world and the SLP world and the autism world. We need peer counselors.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it is just
100% I agree with you.
yeah, yeah, and everyone agrees. It's just like, okay,
But we have to
figure
do
out,
it, right? It's not just
yeah,
agreeing,
yeah.
it's creating
It's
action
just
around it.
figure out how to fund it.
I would love to talk with you another time,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
instead of me with you, because I think this is phenomenal. And
Hmm.
your feedback is super valuable.
Yep.
I see Jill's hand's been up for a while. Sorry, Jill. Peter and I were going for it.
No, that's okay. I just wondered who else in the room, if there's any parents in the room or anybody who is working with littles or um, just what other kinds of feedback there might be.
Well, I know none of my children that are now grown have official autism diagnosis. Um, but I know now that I am seeing my own grandchildren, and one of them is really struggling with some big behavior issues right now and emotional stuff. And I definitely am going to be sharing this recording with his dad today because I feel like this could be a big benefit for him because I had him over here over the weekend and tried to rein in some of the, because he was constantly go, 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 go. And it's so night and day between my two grandsons that are both 7 because one will just sit and do the things and read and here's what grandma said to do. And the other one, it's like, can we do this? Can I see this? Why is this like this? What is this? So, and I know his dad is really struggling with him in school. Like he's been suspended in the last couple of weeks, and that's a lot for a 7-year old.
Yeah,
So I think seeing some of this um, might be pretty helpful to try to get some of that routine in and see if some of that building a little routine for him will help him have a little bit more,
totally. I
Does
think
that
it could
make sense?
that predictability, right? Like if he's
Yeah.
asking questions, what's that? What's this? What's this? Blah, blah, blah. Slow
Hmm.
it down. Kind of what's
Hmm.
something to predict and what's something to kind of work through. And um, it's always worth a try. I use it with my
Yeah.
nephew and myself and my 2-year-old. Otherwise the three
Hmm.
of us are out of this world getting nothing done.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anyone else have any input, any questions for Kerry? I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.